Welcome to DSO Live from Orchestra Hall, Detroit. I'm your host for this weekend of concerts, Alexander Platt. We'd like to extend a special welcome to our friends at Varnum LLP, the sponsors of this year's French Music Festival at the Detroit Symphony. Well, it is a cold, dark, foggy, rainy morning here in Detroit, but we have a morning of gorgeous French music to warm your hearts. And here to discuss it with me from the University of Michigan, musicologist Jessica Grimmer. Welcome, Jessica.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, this, depressing weather, I think, is the perfect setting for the first piece on this morning's program, which is a true rarity, a work by Henri Rabaud, La Procession Nocturne, a nocturnal procession, strange and beautiful tone poem. Tell us more about this fascinating piece.
Absolutely. It is a rarity that we get to hear Rabaud at all.
Sure.
And it's the perfect setting, our cold rain this morning, for this nocturnal procession. Because like Liszt and Berlioz before him, he takes up the Faust legend, and he takes a specific scene from Austrian poet Nicolas Lenau's.
So this is not Goethe's Faust,
This is not
Lenau's
Goethe's Faust,
right.
It's Lenau's Faust.
Sure.
And he actually produces, in French translation, the scene that he's talking about in the score. So it's dark, it's nighttime, it's in a forest. There's a sense of calm about when Faust hears something, and I think that's when that oboe solo enters. And it's a procession led by children, 2 by 2, carrying torches, virgins wearing veils, older monks carrying crosses. And they pass through, and it's for the festival of Saint-Jacques or Saint-Jean on the shortest night of the year.
Okay.
And they pass through, and it's calm and it's beautiful, and Faust, in his solitude, in his aloneness, weeps these bitter tears into the mane of his horse.
My goodness,
Right.
Quite a lot for 10:45 a.m.
Absolutely.
But it's a gorgeous musical scene to take in. Now, it was written, of course, in 1899, so it's a work that straddles the 19th and the 20th centuries. But which century do you think it occupies more?
I think that Rabaud, in this piece and in a lot of his output, is really looking backward to the 19th century.
Right.
It certainly owes a lot to, say, the program music of Berlioz before him. He's doing that very representative program music. You hear the calm of the forest and the entrance. And he's actually quoted as calling modernism the enemy.
Okay, so let me guess. He and Claude Debussy were not the best of friends.
No, they're kind of contemporaries, writing
Right.
at the same time.
Yeah,
But Debussy's very forward-looking,
Right.
and Rabaud's just looking
Rabaud
backwards.
is the dire traditionalist.
Yes,
yeah.
traditionalist is
Yeah.
a very good word for him.
So, of course, what I've always found ironic, I actually grew up listening to this piece on that classic recording by the Detroit Symphony Orchestra with
Right.
their great French maestro from the 1950s, Paul Paré, a name known to many of us who love this
Right.
orchestra so much. I find it so ironic that Rabaud was one of those musicians who, let's be honest, kind of played ball with the Vichy regime after the Nazi invasion. He was probably accused of things, more dire than he probably was trying to get along, and of course it was very complicated. But Paul Paré, who was a hero of the French resistance after the war, took up this piece with great flair. And I think it says something about the role of art and music in our lives, that we need it to transcend these tragic things.
Absolutely, and Rabaud's caught in a really terrible position because Vichy and the Nazis had demanded the racial makeup of students, and he did drag his feet as much as possible as he was nearing his retirement in 1941.
Right.
And like so many musicians, he had to make difficult choices, and he was so fearful that the conservatoire would be shut down entirely that he eventually allowed these lists to be made of his students.
Well, tragic and complicated, but the music survives, thank goodness.
It is really a beautiful
A gorgeous piece that will be followed on this first half by the most famous of violin concertos of Camille Saint-Saëns with this weekend's soloist Benjamin Beilman. So we want to thank you for joining us this morning, and please enjoy our first half here at Orchestra Hall, music of Saint-Saëns and Henri Rabaud, the Saint-Saëns Third Violin Concerto with Benjamin Beilman as soloist, live at Orchestra Hall, Detroit.